Greetings, viewers, and welcome to the latest episode of Roll Off a Tangent. I'm Robert Gibson, alias Zendexor, and together with my teammates Nikki Zurf and XJ, we'll be discussing the first 3 episodes of the legendary cult TV series The Prisoner, starring Patrick McGoohan as Number 6. At the time the series came out in 1967, the term deep state wasn't in common parlance, but it fits perfectly as a descriptor of the power that kidnaps the protagonist, a Secret Service agent, and places him in a mysterious community, the village, where everyone is known as a number. Here, Number 6 faces a constant battle of wits with the authorities as they seek to probe his motivation for having resigned. I watched all 17 episodes when the series came out. I was 13 then, and was so impressed by the sheer style and atmosphere that ever since it's been part of my mental furniture. But only now am I making some kind of attempt to summarize it in a way that makes sense. The alternative approaches are as follows. First, you can try and link it in some way to logical reality. Second, you can just let it float in a surrealist bubble which can only be considered on its own terms. I definitely incline to the latter view, but something can be said on the logical side. It has been claimed that the idea for the village was based on a real holding centre for ex-agents at Inverlair Lodge in Scotland during World War II. The detainees at Inverlair were hardly top-flight operatives, but be that as it may, from the authorities' point of view, it remains a fair question, what does one do with Secret Service personnel who decide they want out? Considering how much they know, can one just leave them alone? Yet that practical issue recedes as the series continues, and the urge to mind control for its own sake acquires a momentum of its own. By the time we reach the final episode, Fallout, the surrealism has quite taken over. In this podcast, we'll be focusing on the first 3 episodes. The first, Arrival, can just perhaps be contained within a Cold War genre. Episode 2, The Chimes of Big Ben, makes it fairly clear that it's more a case of something like a secret world government that's behind the village. And episode 3, A, B and C, with its intervention in dreams, has become definitely science fictional. At any rate, these are my views, but now it's time for numbers 2 and 3 to have a say.
Well, I'll start. Thank you for the introduction, Robert. I did not watch or really hear about this TV show before we started to discuss the possibility of reviewing it on the podcast. But if anything else, I think that it was rather an interesting insight into the British TV of the time. It definitely feels of the time, for sure. Some of the music in it is grandiose and great. Some of it is a little bit ill-fitting and strange, but it is of the time. Although it took me out of some areas. The plot itself, the groundwork is interesting. Its slow-going nature was first something that I really enjoyed, and later something I had to combat with. But at the very least, it has definitely given me a lot of food for thought. I'll start with the good. I think that the actor portraying Number 6 is brilliant. I think he did a fantastic job, irregardless of how crazy the situation he was in. He played it straight. He was the straight man of the entire thing, and his prowess as an actor can definitely be seen. So I was very impressed with the way he played the character. He felt like a believable individual in this crazy situation. And just like Robert pointed out, the situation got crazier and crazier. I also really enjoyed the second number two. There are several number twos throughout these 3 episodes because they get changed up because they fail to break number 6. And the one in the second episode was my favorite. I also like his approach very much to the whole situation, right? Don't make an enemy out of this man. Try to appeal to him and his nature, and see if he can just be brought to the fold. I thought that is the most sinister, but also something that I could actually see working. Because at a certain point, you as number 6, if you don't have the iron will of the character that we see on screen, you are going to have to start thinking about reality. You're stuck here. You're stuck inside the village. There's no going out. So maybe, just maybe, it's time to settle. It's time to betray your iron will, your desires for freedom, and just live, because that's all you've got left in this village. But of course, our character does not, does not collapse under this pressure. Otherwise, there wouldn't be 15 other episodes afterwards. And ultimately, the plan goes awry. But I think the number 2 from episode 2 could have done one more little thing. Right after it is revealed that all of this was a lie, that his escape plan could not be and was all a ruse, perhaps number 2 could have come up to him and be like, see, okay, you've seen through my plan and you got out of it, but it just proves to you that there's no escape, pal. So how long do you want to do this? I've got all day. They might dispose of me and put somebody else in charge, but this is just going to continue. I mean, look at the scripts. There's 15 more of them, right? So I think one last scene like that, in what was, I think, my favorite episode out of 3, would have really sealed the deal. I love the way everyone is dressed. I think that whoever was in charge of cinematography did a fantastic job. I really enjoyed the way you can really tell the eeriness of the village, even though that everyone is so colorful and it's such a beautiful place. And yeah, I just think in those moments the atmosphere didn't just work, I think it carried the TV show. Onto the things that I didn't like as much. The ball, man. What the hell is with this ball? Get this ball out of this TV show. What is happening? So, for those of you who have never seen The Prisoner before, there's this device that goes around. It's not fully explained, but I'm sure it will be either explained later or, there's going to be some sort of a clarity in there. But it's just a big ball that has no special effects on it, and it like bounces around, and it's kind of deadly, but kind of not. I don't really know what it does. Even like a beam of light, if they just put a beam of light from a projector down and just had it moving downwards, it would have been more intimidating than this clearly like rubber ball bouncing around with this eerie music. Like, it was just absolutely gobsmackingly hilarious. But it wasn't like, if this TV show was so bad that it's good, then I'd be like, the ball is the best part. But because the rest of the TV show is trying its hardest to be taken seriously, this stupid ball coming in at some points in all of those episodes, I was just like, no, get it off the stage. Who approved this prop? Yeah, I really didn't get it. I also felt like some of the dialogue could have been written better. There was a lot of repetition, which happens during interrogation and such. But I feel like there is. It's like they kind of talk like real people, but then there's certain moments where it just feels like a script. When number 6 in the first episode is talking to the woman who is quote unquote helping him escape, and he starts finishing her sentences, and he's like, like, you're just vulnerable and blah 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 blah, like so on and so forth. It just felt like the most unreal conversation that I've ever witnessed in the show, and it really took me out of it. So I am of mixed feelings. On one side, there are amazing, really great parts of this thing that I enjoyed, and at some points I was even sitting and I was compelled. There was tension, there was intrigue, and then there was like the other side of the crew who was working on this TV show, who thought they were making a silly thing for children. So there's like two teams on the same project, kind of felt like, and one of them is trying to take themselves super seriously, and one of them put a damn balloon moving around on the set. And it's like these two forces are equivalent to the two halves of my brain fighting for, do I take this seriously or is this silly? And this dissonance really affected, how do I say it, my enjoyment of it. Because I also didn't know. Like, at some point, I was like, I don't know, should I take this seriously or should I give in to the silliness? Yeah, so I'm of mixed feelings. I still haven't decided if I like it or not. I like a lot of things about it. I find a lot of things about it also silly. And yeah, it's a bit of a fight in my mind. Yeah. Actually, what about you? What did you think about The Prisoner?
Well, I am very curious as to I will be very curious to hear Robert's thoughts on the whole thing, actually, because he's given like quite a bit more context, including the actual village this whole thing was shot in. What was it? In Wales, right?
Portmeirion.
Portmeirion. Oh, well,
Yeah.
there you go. It's a existing location. That's fascinating. As is usual for me, when I read or see or watch something or play something, usually I would think of what it reminds me of first. And in this particular show reminded me of two things. One would be that little short story that we covered quite a while back about a fake village, and I can't quite recall the name, but
The Tunnel Under the World.
huh?
The Tunnel Under the World.
Yes, that's the one. It had a fake village, and then the people were robots, and this guy was experiencing a little bit of a Groundhog Day kind of thing. So there is immediately, so like the fake village thing immediately brought to mind this short story that we covered, and also some scenes in Fallout 3. There are some votes that had like a fake village, and it did give off that semi creepy vibe. Also, something like the Truman Show as well. There's something is a little bit off about the everyday, and you can't quite put a finger to it. And that is a very effective way to create a sort of creepy atmosphere. I feel like just something that is just off about the everyday. Now, as to the show itself, I think unfortunately the balloon just is something I cannot take seriously. And every time the thing rolls into the scene, I'm like, okay. For one thing, it's like there really was no explanation for the existence of that policing device, shall we call it that, don't know where it comes from, what sort of technologies lies behind it, and all manners of stuff. I also feel like so I don't know how the rest of the show continues, but it does feel to me like the first three episodes really, was trying to decide what kind of show it is going to be. The first felt a little bit like a horror, a bit of a horror thing. Not exactly horror, but kind of like that tunnel under the world. That's the kind of vibe that they're going for. Big Brother is watching you, and we can snatch you up at any time. And then the second episode felt a little bit like a James Bond movie, like the guy's trying to escape. And then there's like all sorts of spy stuff, like people being very clever to each other, like trying subterfuge, and then trying to get the best upper hand. And then the third kind of went full tilt science fiction, as you said, Robert, with the dream sequences. And then it's like, and all throughout, of course, the number 6 was showed his grit and showed his ability to adapt to the situation and turn the tables on his captors. And I think like it feels to me like the entire show is probably a sequence of, it's like a variation of Monster of the Week kind of show, but instead it's more like the escape plot of the week, more like.
Yeah, number 2 of the week, right?
Number two of the week, correct?
Yeah.
So, but like even for a show like that, kind of like Smallville, Monster of the Week, Supervillain of the Week kind of thing, they still had like an identity of what kind of show this is. But I feel like for The Prisoner, maybe, like, because I don't know, maybe The Prisoner at the time of its airing had such great impact on the rest of TV kind that it basically set the tone for this Creature of the Week thing. But I did feel like the first 3 episodes, at least, the show was trying to decide what kind of a show is going to be. And then I said, I don't know what the rest of the 15 episodes are like, 15 or 14 episodes. They could just like decide to go full tilt into science fiction territory, and that would be quite interesting. But I'm gonna have to say that my feelings on the matter is a little bit like your feelings on Dragonlance. Dragons of Winter Night. Dragons of Autumn Twilight. The first was, to me, it just did not land. And if it was not part of the bundle that we were going through, I probably, if I were the person to have caught this on my own, I probably wouldn't have went past episode 1, just because a lot of it has to do with just how slow it is. And on some level, I really like the fact that, not other than the dream sequence in episode 3, there was not one iota of violence in the whole thing. I really like that. But at the same time, it is also, I think it's a little bit too slow for the modern audience, and that says a lot about my attention span, but that's how things are. And I really don't know, because the balloon did not make much of an appearance in episode 3, and I hope it stays that way for the rest of the show, because that balloon really did not land. It just took me out of the show completely. Yeah.
I mean, just imagine, okay, a universe where the balloon is replaced with something actually intimidating.
Even a armed guard would have been way better than a balloon. You know, like that like a very intimidating guy in a gorilla suit would have been like better.
Yep.
Anyway, that's my thoughts. I'm a little bit like I'm not quite sure if I kind of there's some like really nice things about it. Like the atmosphere was really good. It did like that fake gaiety, the fake rainbow colors that really made a very nice contrast to the story that is being told through the dialogue and the sequences, and that the feeling of that Potemkin village really is in stark contrast to the plot. I would also have to say that my favorite episode out of the three is the last one, to be quite honest, because that was when it started becoming more appropriate. I feel like the music in the first two was a little bit odd as well. It had this very weird marching band, trumpets, and grandiose kind of feel. Whereas like a lot of the music in the soundtrack in the third episode was more discordant. So there was much more of the tension in episode 3. Episode 2 was I think is still like living under the shadow of episode 1, trying to decide what it wants to be. And I don't know if the rest of the show continued in the vein of number 3, I could totally see myself finishing. I guess my verdict would be I am not quite sure what to make of it.
Fair enough. Well, I think this is the moment we've all been waiting for.
Robert,
yeah. What are you thinking? Yeah, what do you think?
I would love to know what sort of because you said it clearly had a big impact on you watching it at 13. I would love to hear a little bit about that.
I would say that I agree with some of what both of you say. I seem to get the impression that whereas Nikki preferred episode 2, XJU preferred episode 3. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I would say episode 3 was very impressive. The only sad thing about it was that the balloon didn't appear, but we can't have I would also agree with Nikki's tribute to McGoohan's acting. Actually, McGoohan was, for a while in the 1960s, the highest paid actor in the country, and one can see why. Excuse me. The general what the show proves, I think, is that just because there are unanswerable questions doesn't mean that they don't detract. The unanswerableness doesn't detract from the general effect. If you look at it too logically, then you think that why the hell don't the authorities just make a bit more of an effort to establish their bona fides with this guy they're trying to fathom the motives of? They're not exactly trying to get some secret of state after him. Excuse me again. They just want to know his motivation for resigning. And likewise, on the other, looking at it from the other point of view, what is his motivation for digging his heels in and refusing to tell them what his motivations were? Again, he's not asked to divulge any state secret. He's merely being asked to say why what personal reason brought him to resign. Now, in either case, whichever way you look at it, I don't see logically that there was any need for this enormous amount of attention to be brought to bear on the task of getting him to say what he doesn't want to say. Now, these thoughts are just recent ones in my mind. The fact that they didn't occur to me for most of my life is an important factor in itself. It's a vindication, if you like, of my approach, I think, though I may sound that I'm boasting, but my approach to art, if you like, is one of acceptance. That is to say, I let myself be bamboozled into not thinking about things if not thinking is part of the role play that one goes in for in order to enjoy the show properly. That's probably why I like old Rover the balloon, whereas you more grown-up guys turn your noses up at it. You see, I'm mentally the youngest person on this team, although physically the oldest. And so I have a childlike approach to these things. And I think it pays off because I enjoy things probably a lot more than you grown-ups do. I would say, though, that come to think of it, it is an interesting question why one could invent various reasons why the authorities behave as they do and why number 6 behaves as he does. Perhaps, this is just an idea, perhaps he knows that it wouldn't really matter so much if he told them why he resigned, but he fears that once he gives way on that point, they'll ask him for others and that it'll be the thin end of the wedge. And so he might as well make a stand straight away and not tell them anything. That's a possible answer. I just want to say also that once again that these thoughts never occurred to me when I was watching the show for the first time. So, who wants to take it from there?
Well, I have a couple of questions for you, Robert. First of all, it's clear that out of the 3, the third episode is your favorite because it is. Originally, you basically said let's discuss the third episode, and I think it was me who said like if it's the third episode, let's just watch the first 3 so we get a little bit more context. So why is the third one? Is it your favorite out of the series or just out of these 3?
It was just an accident that it was the one that I didn't remember very well from before, and curiosity piqued me, and also it was one of the few that are available on YouTube, and so I happen not to have the DVDs on me. They're at my brother's house, so I thought, oh, episode 3, that sounds good. Now, having watched again the first 3 episodes, I'm inclined to probably say I enjoyed episode 2 more, partly because the number 2 in episode 2, Leo McKern, was such a brilliant number 2.
Yeah, I agree. It was my favorite.
Yeah. But what was actually your question? It was just asking me why I preferred number 3, and I'm going back on that a bit. Apart from the fact that disappointment of not having the balloon in it, of course.
Yeah.
It was good.
But why? So the second one was your favorite because of number 2. Okay. Regarding the plot. Yeah, the plot was very good. Yeah. So I think it's all fabricated, right? They're not actually in Lithuania or wherever they said, right? It was just part of the ruse. Do we ever get? You don't have to tell me the actual thing, but do we ever get to find out where we're at and what the hell's going on? Or
Clearly in Wales.
It's not really sure, because in one of the episodes it seems like he's discovered that the village is in North Africa somewhere, but even that turns out to be a deception of some sort. So we end up, I personally think the village is in England or Wales, maybe, because that's where the actual place is, but you can't be sure, and I don't think you're meant to be sure. But also, if as I now suspect, the village represents some sort of world government, it may not be the only one of its kind. After all, it has quite a British flavour to it, even though there are foreign nationalities in it. So one assumes that if it's part of a world government, there has to be others to cater for the equivalent of number 6 in other countries. So, there can be loads of villagers.
I think so. It sounds like they kept the mystery of the village all throughout the entire show, and I think that's a good move. My question would be, if so, what's the rest of the series like? Is it like did it ever take on a more science fiction bent, or did it just kind of continue on the same flavor of the first two?
It's difficult to answer, because some of the episodes, the ones you've watched, are fairly easy to understand, but some of them get really hard to understand. Very memorable, mind you. There's one of them where the inhabitants of the village are organized into something that's like a giant chess game, and I can't remember what the hell was the point of that. I must watch it again sometime. There was one where there's an election in the village, and number 6 is persuaded to run for office. There's one in which they get somebody else who looks just like number 6, only they call him number 12, and there's some kind of attempt to confuse the two identities, and in the end number 6 disguises himself as number 12 in order to escape, but of course he makes one slip up and they're onto him. There's one in which there's a giant computer called the General, and number six sabotages it by asking it the question why, and the computer can't understand this question, and it starts to blow up. They're really surreal.
I mean, I get it. A lot of the times people ask me why, and I feel like exploding.
Well, there you go. You're like the General.
Yeah, I'm like the General, that's for sure.
And there are a couple of episodes which actually don't happen in the village, except very, very transitorily. One in which the authorities think that number 6 will let his guard down with the children, so they get him to read the children a story, and the story is acted out in the program. It's a kind of fairy tale where the number 6 invents an absurd story with himself in it, and it's fun to watch, but it's really just kind of playing around with ideas. And there's one where he's fed some drugs and he thinks that he's in the Wild West.
Amazing.
Character in the Wild West. Okay. I can't remember all of them, and also there's one where number 2 is a woman. I remember the character, very scornful, and it ends up with number 6 believing that he's been presumed dead by the world outside. There's one where the village is emptied. He wakes up and he finds nobody there, and he builds himself a boat and rigs up a compass somehow and sails back to England and tells everybody about the village. And they say, right, we'll will see to this place, come on, and they fly back, and then they press a button and he parachutes down and finds himself back in there. It's really a lot of variety.
What's the point? Like, is there like an ending to this? Like, is it a definitive ending, or does the prisoner end with like, and there were many more adventures of number 6, which you could read in this novel, or like, you know?
Prisoner, the last episode was so bewildering that afterwards, Patrick McGoohan says, I saw an interview with him, he says he just had to get out of the country. He stirred up such a hornet's nest of criticism with that last episode, he just had to get out. So you'll see him in future films, like in Escape from Alcatraz, where he's the warden of Alcatraz. Presumably he had to find a career elsewhere.
So it was so bad. Well, not bad, but it was so controversial, the ending to this series, that he had to leave. Okay.
Yeah.
So what was the reception like to the show back then?
Well, people loved it. It was a great success until the last episode. I asked recently. I was talking to my brother about that last episode, and he is inclined to think that one possible ending was that the prisoner himself turns out to be number 1. That in fact, I don't know. This is my idea. That maybe following on from that idea, perhaps number 1 cracked due to the pressure of work, and they're trying to find out, because he's so important, they can't treat him like they treat most people. So they're desperately trying to find out what went wrong with him. I don't know. It's far fetched, but I really don't know. Certainly, the last episode has no firm consensus as to its meaning.
Sounds a little bit like season 8 of Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, yeah, but just all concise in one episode.
Well,
I mean, it happens a lot with series that are all about a mystery, where the reveal of the mystery gets everyone upset because either it's not something that they were expecting, or the show didn't live up to the the premise that it was actually doing. Like, I don't know if any of you have seen the TV show Lost, but that whole thing, like the first few seasons, while being strange, it still sort of lives in some sort of a reality, and there's a lot of excitement about trying to understand the real and also the strangeness of the island. But yeah, the end point of the series just completely froze everything out of the water, and the reason people dislike that is because it kind of betrays everything that was going on before that. There's no real mystery answered. It's a switcheroo, so to speak. The mystery changes, and therefore the answer is different, because it wasn't this mystery all along. It was a different mystery, right? And that felt very cheap for many people. Is it sort of similar to that, or is just the resolution strange? Like, don't tell me what happens, but I'm just saying, like, what type of a disaster is it?
Well, I couldn't tell you what happens anyway. It's just a phantasmagorical medley of images, really, that last one. But yeah, I remember in that interview with McGoohan, I saw him. He was asked about that last episode, and he said that people were expecting him to produce some sort of James Bond type answer, presumably that there was some supervillain behind it all. He said that it just wouldn't work. It's not what he was
envisioned.
The whole series was his idea, and really, he says that if you don't like it, there's only one person to blame. That's me, he said. because he was responsible for the whole thing. Well, he didn't write the whole scripts himself, but
Yeah, no one does.
the idea was his own.
This is, yeah.
Yeah, that last episode, I quite enjoyed it, but I didn't understand
Yeah.
it.
No.
But I did
Did
suspect.
he try to has he ever tried to explain it? The author, has he ever tried to be like, listen, here's what the images mean? Has that ever happened?
I don't know. Mind you, I do think there's one thing fairly clear from that last episode, which is there is some sort of reconciliation between Number 6 and the authorities. It ends on quite a happy seeming note. It ends with Number 6 walking back into London, and he seems happy enough. In fact, he's accompanied by that midget butler. That butler.
Is that so the guy who was there for the first episode, but I don't really remember him being anywhere else.
Oh, right.
Was it?
Well, he does stay on through the series, but anyway, he
Yeah.
accompanies
Oh, okay.
Number 6 back to London, and I don't
Oh,
know.
that's
nice. From the atmosphere point of view, I think that the message, to me anyway, is that Number 6's long resistance pays off, and he wins the respect of the authorities. But you could argue the other way. You could say that maybe, maybe he was fooled in the end. I don't know, but I don't think so.
That's
yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, it honestly just sounds like Patrick McGoohan wanted to experiment with different things, and the show was an excuse for him to do that, and I think that's perfectly fine. As a creator, sometimes we need to do things like that. And weird endings, that's not the first time I've seen a weird show that I can't really explain. The 90s were filled with really weird shows with no real explanation for anything that goes on. I guess though that it from what you described, it just sounded like the showrunners didn't really know how to end the series. That's what came out to me, and which would be the same issue that the Game of Thrones last season had, which was they didn't really know how to wrap things up. And to your point about mystery boxes, Nikki, yeah, I agree. Like, is when you start a show and then you don't know how it's gonna end, and it's all about a mystery, then that usually is the kind of ending you get. Yeah.
I don't think it's bad to have a ending where you are mystified and you like you don't know what to make of it. But it has to work within the confines of what you previously had. Like, a lot of people don't like the way The Sopranos ended, right? But I think that out of all of those endings where, I don't really know what's gonna happen next, it's more of like, we didn't betray the universe of The Sopranos in the last episodes. Aliens didn't come down from the sky. It's an ambiguous ending, and you don't know exactly what happened, right? You can make choices, and and people still talk about that series because of that ending. I'm more than sure, because it is so strange to end on such a mysterious note. But yeah, I mean, Lost just goes, forget about like the previous 5 seasons. Here's a new mystery, and we answer it. Don't you feel satisfied? Yeah. The Prisoner, however, the first 3 episodes, I think that if if this was done today, there would maybe some of the more silly elements wouldn't be there. Let's put it like that. But I think a lot of the charm of the series would also be lost. So I'm glad that I gave it a look, that you suggested it, Robert. Yeah, it was definitely an experience. I'm kind of tempted to watch the last episode just to see how crazy this like psychedelical trip is. But like I'll have to wrestle with myself and see if I do that or not. Yeah. What was I gonna say? Do you know of any other series of that time that tried to replicate The Prisoner? And if so, did they do that? Like, was it a fab? Did people try to like capture this lighting animal? No, it was just that.
There was nothing like it. It remains unique as far as I know.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. It's it's really quite an unusual combination of talents. I think that these actors who were brought in to play number two. I forgot actually to mention one episode which had something like speed learn, which was a way of learning things really fast, and there was something sinister about it, but I can't remember. I'll have to watch that again. I'll have to watch them all again. It's been over half a century.
I also find it kind of cheap from the author of the thing to be like, well, I don't know what the people expected. Like, they thought that I'm going to do some sort of a James Bond thing. And at least from the first 3 episodes, this is James Bond, my friend. So, of course, they expected some James Bond thing at the end. Like,
definitely episode 2 was very James Bond. Yeah, episode one was a little bit weird. I don't really know how to pin it down, but episode 2 definitely was James Bond. It did give me the James Bond vibe.
He was offered the role of James Bond. Actually, it was McGoohan, but he turned it down.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's because he was blonde.
Guy's good looking.
Yeah. No, I mean, why he turned it down? Do you think that this TV show would work as something that could be readapted again? Do you think that there is potential in revisiting this idea and trying to do something new with it?
Well, possibly, but you have to realize that when you're talking to me, you're talking to someone whose opinion of contemporary culture is so low that I have zero expectations of anything working. I mean, probably I'm being unfair, but
well, the best way to have something blow your expectations out of the water is to not have it in the first place.
That's right. But let's step aside for a minute from whether or not the current the current landscape of expression is good or bad. Just in a bubble, do you think that there should be more interpretations of The Prisoner? Do you think the work would benefit from that? Or do you think this is the definitive version and there isn't really much point in trying to add to it?
I think it's pretty definitive, actually. I wouldn't say that there's any point at all, although I would sympathize with somebody who likes it so much that they would want to do more in the same vein. And certainly, structurally speaking, there's no limit to the number of episodes that there could have been. There was no natural end to the series. It's a bit like Kafka's what's that one? The Trial, where he writes episode after episode of this meaningless trial, and in the end he decides that's enough, I'm bringing the book to the end, so he has Joseph K killed. But there was no structural natural end to the book, and there's no structural natural end to the prisoner either.
If you were asked to write an episode, what would your story be about, Robert?
I'd probably mess it up, I should think. I'd probably turn it into some sort of secret alien invasion story, which would be totally against the spirit of the thing. So I wouldn't be
Well, you can go at the end of the thing was like, well, that was our another try of what's it called, the surprising number 6, and it didn't work, right? So I think you could do any crazy premise, to be honest.
I suppose so. Yeah. Yeah, Martians,
Mars is coming out, trying to take what's his face, number 6 out on the stroll in the Sorcerer.
I think actually my brother's idea is probably the best one, that number 6 turns out to be number 1, but I don't know how you could actually get away with it. Unless, of course, that's what they were trying to say in their last episode. But I don't know. Anyway, I'll leave it to you to tell me when you watched it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really thinking hard about like going in there and giving the last episode a watch just to give you some ideas. But if I were to write an episode, of The Prisoner, it would be my idea, okay? So there's a new number 2, as always, but they don't tell number 6 who's the new number 2. Everyone takes off their numbers, and they just replace a bunch of people, right? So he's in there, and half of the people that come in, they really are just new people who don't know what's going on, and half of them are people who are pretending to be, like oblivious, but really they're working, they're part of the machine, okay? And so the number 2 uses the situation and does his best to try and become an ally of number 6. And in the end, it is revealed that nobody was number 2. All of them were like just people. And our number 6 was like moments away from doing something terrible to just an innocent person. Right? So they were trying to break him that way. They were trying to demoralize his iron will by making him a terrible person, a murderer, a person who has broken in his morals. But in the last moment, he realizes that this is all a farce, that there is no number 2, and he saves the day. There you go. That would be my idea.
Yeah, there was actually an episode in which he distrusts somebody, and it turns out that he should have trusted him. So that's a bit like what you're saying. Yeah, I can't remember what episode it was.
Awesome. Actually, do you have an idea for an episode?
Well, I was going to go with like within the same episode, a different number 2 almost every day kind of thing within the same episode. But every time the number 2 fails, he gets executed right in front of number 6's eyes. And
my God,
we'll see how that pushes number 6's buttons, right? As a character, and probably every one of the number 2s will actually be one of the villagers, including that nice gentleman that he has chess games with every day, And anytime one of them fails, they just get permanently replaced, shall we say? Yeah.
Wow. Very very morbid. I like it. I like it a lot.
I think like might not be to the flavor of those times, I'm gonna have to say, because one thing I did appreciate about the 3 episodes that we watched, like the only time there was violence or of any kind was that dream sequence where Patrick McGoohan was kind of like roughing it up with a bunch of ruffians, but that's about it. And I think that is a nice way to go about writing scenes, because it's so easy to capture attention with violence, and a lot more difficult to get it to maintain interest with just dialogue and scene setting. So yeah. Yeah, those are my thoughts. And yeah, likewise, I did appreciate a chance to be exposed to the show thanks to you, Robert. That's always good. Yeah.
Well, you're both youngsters, so you've got all the rest of your life stretching in front of you to try and understand the rest of the show, if you want.
All right.
I may dedicate some hours to that. But yeah, let's switch to what is it called? Our review time, I guess.
Yeah.
Our scores.
Well, I guess
I give it a 6.5.
Oh
no,
yeah.
I went already. Yeah, 6.5.
Okay. 6.5. Fair enough.
6.5. I think it's fair. It's a fair one.
I was gonna give it a 5. So yeah, I think it's just not. I think it's just too slow for me. My attention span and all that. Yeah, it was just like very felt. The first episode was interesting as I was trying to figure out what's going on. I think one of the scene that really captured my mind the most was when he was looking for the map, and all the maps turned out to be this cartoonish variant of each other.
Oh, that was a great moment. Yeah.
But quite aside from that, I think the show just kind of did drag on for me. But that could just be more of a modern sensibility. But at the end of the day, I have to say, it's a 5. Robert, I'm expecting a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll give it a 10. I would give it more, but I was disappointed with the lack of the balloon, as I say in episode 3. So I'll just content myself with giving it a 10, I think.
All right. Well, that wraps up. Does anyone else have anything to say?
Just I just wanted to say that the Prisoner is worth a watch. You can find it on YouTube. The first 3 episodes, in some countries it doesn't seem to work, but minimum for me in Germany, and for XJ in Canada, you are able to watch the episodes online. So give it a watch, see what you think, rate how much you love the balloon down below, and yeah, just thank you everyone for watching. That's it.
Yeah.
And if you want to visit the village, this is Wales, this is Harlech, just to the north, Port Miriam.
I can see where they got the inspiration for the map. Looks exactly the same. Yeah. All right, and with that, thank you all for your attention. If you like the show, please subscribe and give us some attention. And otherwise, please have a great day, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.